Welcome back to State of Texas In Depth. This morning we're taking a look at the state's response to the surge of illegal immigrants at the Texas-Mexico border. Two of our own, KXAN Sally Hernandez and Chris Sadeghi, have traveled south to report on the problems and the challenges there in recent weeks. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So, Chris, you were there this past week. What was perhaps the most surprising thing you noticed as you were going out with the Border Patrol agents?
Well, we got to ride along the Rio Grande with the Border Patrol, and one of the things that you can't help but notice, there's a lot of items strewn about, obviously belonging to children. Stuffed animals, bottles, diapers, and it's just about everywhere you look. That's not an area where anybody else would be traveling. It's a very thick brush, and those are children that have just made it across the river, and from what we're told, immediately start looking for the uniformed Border Patrol because they look at the Border Patrol as someone who is going to help them, as opposed to maybe an adult coming across the border who might try to blend in with the people there in McAllen where we were at.
And children were obviously a lot of the focus from your coverage as well, because you were stationed right outside some of the camps where those mothers and children have been sent.
Right, yeah, and to your point, when they leave those things at the border, they go to the immigration centers without anything. So they need those donations of diapers and clothing and food. And so when we were in McAllen, we stopped at the Sacred Heart Church, and that's where all of the donations went to, donations from really all over the country. Talked to some moms and their children as young as infants, months old, that were crossing.
Chris, talk to me about the response there. I mean, we've been talking a lot about the National Guard going down there, but the Border Patrol already has a huge presence.
They said about 3,000 agents covering 300 miles of river, and they did say they do work between agencies. The Border Patrol, we did see a lot of Department of Public Safety there. There's also the local sheriff's offices, police offices, and they did say that they all work very well together, that it's one of the best efforts they've seen as far as agencies working together. We did ask them about the National Guard, and they said right now they're a lot like everybody else. They're not sure how that will work, other than what we've been told, that apparently it will be in a supporting role to the operations that are already going on down there.
Something we've been hearing is the surge of immigrants possibly is slowing down because there have been so much news about the Border Patrol and the National Guard gearing up to take care of this surge. Is this something, when you saw the camps out there, were things slowing down, or were there less people, or any kind of talk like that?
No, I mean, at the point they were saying there were thousands of people that were happening at this donation site. But we also talked to the county judge in Hidalgo County, which covers most of the Rio Grande Valley. And he was talking about how it has slowed down somewhat, but the need is still there. And the fact remains that they are here. They're in McAllen, so it's going about how to help them. Has it slowed down? Yes, but not to the point, I think, where people can leave and just forget about that it's still happening.
And that judge and some other leaders down there aren't really seeing this whole thing as a favorable thing for their area.
No, he said we welcome all the volunteers, because when we were there, we followed a church group from North Austin to McAllen. He said we welcome all these volunteers from all over the country, really, who went to McAllen to help out with these donation sites. What he doesn't welcome are the National Guard troops. He says it just sends the wrong message when it comes to what they are all about there, especially, he says, the businesses. They're not really sure how this is going to affect business along the border.
Is that surprising, considering we've heard that they're not going to be law enforcement, they're just going to be assisting the law enforcement that's down there?
Well, there's going to be different views, I think, as far as how the National Guard will play a role. When the announcement was made by Governor Perry, they had the big press conference. There was a lot of people who were saying that they look at it as military, and that military is not what you need in a situation like this. And the Border Patrol even said that when they're out on patrol and they're dealing with children, they have to be able to flip the switch to become a humanitarian and show compassion after what these children have been through. And when you start talking about the National Guard in any sense, them being a branch of the military, I think that's going to rub some people the wrong way, or really make them question about the role they're going to have down there, especially dealing with these children who really need a lot of help.
When you were talking about the Border Patrol agents having to be compassionate like that, and the children looking directly for them when they get across, is that seems kind of like the Border Patrol wouldn't be someone I would look for if I was going, but they really want their help too.
In the case of children, yes. Now, as I just mentioned, in the case of an adult, Border Patrol says they come across adults, and a lot of times when they see them, the adults will scatter. They're trying to make it to nearby businesses, the towns nearby, so that they can blend in and not be caught. But for the children, they, according to Border Patrol, they see the United States as a country that's compassionate, that has humanitarians, and that's going to help them, and that might be the reason they want to be here in the first place and flee the situations in their home countries.
And obviously it's just getting so big, like you've seen with the camps. And you know, how long do you think that church is going to have to stay down there?
They said as long as they need to be, as long as they need to be set up, as long as they get the donations from everywhere at the Sacred Heart Church, they're going to be there. And when we talked to the kids and to the mothers, the kids didn't have shoes. They had holes in the bottom of their soles because they came across the border walking all that time. It was at least a 1,500-mile trip for a lot of these families. And they call the Border Patrol agents, at least some of the kids that we talked to, the Green Angels, because to them it is a symbol of hope once they come across the border, that these are the people who are going to help them. It's the most safest, the most protection I think they felt in a very long time coming from Central America.
Chris, how do you predict, we've just got about 30 seconds, but how do you predict this will play out for the rest of the year?
Well, it doesn't look like, I know you mentioned the decrease in the amount of children coming over, but it doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. They contributed that to a couple different factors. They said the heat, the summer months, always brings a little bit of a decrease of activity along the border. They also said there's some PSAs back in their home countries saying, don't try to make that dangerous journey. You're just going to be sent back. How it will ultimately play out, good question. Not sure. That remains to be seen. I think ICE will have a part. How they handle these cases, whether they truly are sending these immigrants back to their home countries, might play a part in the future when it comes to people in Central America deciding to make that journey, whether they think it's worth it, whether they think it's worth the risk, if they'll ultimately be able to stay in this country.
Great. Chris, Sally, thank you for sharing those stories with us, and thank you for being with us this morning. All right, online now at KXAN.com, we have an immigration feature. If you click onto the news tab, all of our border coverage plus a slideshow from Chris's trip down south right now at KXAN.com. Thank you for joining us for State of Texas In Depth. Join us every Sunday morning at 8:30. NBC's Meet the Press is coming up at 9. Have a great day.